talking about the Hustler Fund, it's very easy for the elite to say that 1,000 bob or even 500 does not add value to Mama Mboga. But there are people in Kenya today who struggle to get 1,000 bob, who struggle to get 500 bob, and 1,000 bob or 500 bob is material in their cash flows, in their balance sheet, in their profit and loss account. While one may argue that the Hustler Fund has had challenges, but there are a number of people who will go to the top of Mount Kenya, literally, and say that this Hustler Fund has been a success. There are many people that Pope Francis was taking care of, the marginalized and the one in the periphery, that the Hustler Fund has cleaned. They've been removed from the Credit Reference Bureau, and now they've joined the form of banking. So in as much as you may not like what President Ruto is doing, you must give him credit. Number two, it's ironical for people to complain about the IEBC selection committee, and there was an advert placed in the newspaper, and people were told, apply for this role. Now, you don't apply for that role, or you apply and you are not shortlisted, and then again you start saying that this thing was a complete waste of time. But again, we must ask ourselves, why do people fear these jobs at IEBC? Because if you go for an election, and one of the parties does not like the outcome of that election, then you will be thrown out of office. That is why we need to give people a pat on the back, the ones who had the guts to apply for those roles. Because if you look at the history of those commissioners and the chairman, all of them, it's as if they've committed political suicide. Okay. But the ones who've been elected, even a few days ago, we saw the media saying that are defective nominees. So where did you expect the nomination committee to fish out for people if they don't apply? And then lastly, you did ask that if Dr. Matiang'i becomes the president, what are the major challenges? One can talk about education. Education today in Kenya seems, you wake up every single day, there are new acronyms, things are falling all over. If you go to transports, there's even no transport policy in Kenya. By the way, did you know that constructions of roads is at the beck and call of the president? We don't have a roads policy. Even when you talk about healthcare, there's this issue of organ transplants that we don't even have a legal framework. So you find a donor and a recipient agree to go to Mediheal and do their thing. When the recipient is not paid, they blame Mediheal. So those are some of the things that we expect all the leaders to pronounce themselves on. And the next election, 2027, is going to be won on meritocracy. If you do not demonstrate meritocracy, then pack your bags neatly and go to the village. Fair enough. 30 seconds, gentlemen. Make it tight.
The biggest issue in Kenya is there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest. It occasionally, goes into jailers and infighting, but there's a lot of interest in the country. And I think leadership and all people want to go to office should give Kenya a break in terms of allow Kenya to exist, faithfully, transparently, politely, without having to have so much interest that gets personal so that you start, looting, public resources and all that. In terms of IEBC, I think the only problem is there was another list added into the whole thing when they had already closed the application time. And that might take us to court. But I think as a country, we need to move on. I mean, a lawyer has been put in office. There are several other lawyers in that list. Let the country move.
All right. 30 seconds, Mahesh. Serious 30 seconds. Okay.
IEBC does not elect leaders. Leaders are elected by the people. President Ruto has upheld the rule of law. The nomination process was constitutional and very, very transparent. The president continues to strengthen institutions, not by controlling them, as part of his governance agenda. So let us support the new commissioners to succeed. The incoming commissioners, they have a very strict timelines to prepare for the election, for the next electoral cycle. So they deserve goodwill, institutional support, and not suspicion and sabotage. Thank you.
30 seconds, Prof.
I think I would like to congratulate Matiang'i and Uhuru Kenyatta for handing power peacefully, in spite of the things they were saying before. When the Kenyans spoke, they respected that. That is the kind of leadership we want. The other thing I want to say is that Kenyans don't have a right to complain about the NBC. because there was something called in Antico, which limited the selection of IEBC to Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza, as if they would be the only candidate in the election.
Right.
People should have taken that in Antico to court and insist that there is no right for Kenya Kwanza to select one person in parliament, then Azimio to select another one in the parliament. They have a Kenya like me, I may want to declare that I'm running for president. Where is my person in that process of forming the panel, which then went to interview? So the panel was wrong, and therefore the outcome cannot be right.
Okay, fair enough. And therefore we must live with that because we did not complain early enough.
Yes.